Trust me, I wish I could make another video on the cinematic. And there was the potential to do that by showing you some of the concepts of the behind the scenes. But today we are moving forward, because riding the wave of announcing awesome news coming to League of Legends not only in 2024 but also in 2025, knowing fully well that this year is gonna be nuts, the League team announced an AMA. But it wasn't just any kind of AMA. Everyone was invited. Which means that as long as your question was at least somewhat related to League, there was the chance it would get answered. And oh boy, did some of the questions go wild. But funnily enough, some of the answers were interesting too. Which is why today I had the pleasure of going through thousands of comments and summarizing some of the most interesting answers we got here. So without further ado, let's dive into League's latest AMA. Interestingly enough, the top question on this entire AMA was about details. Specifically stat details which League used to show you, but then it was removed. Besides the classic AP and AD bonuses as well as the crit stats, there used to be healing increased, lethality stats, stuff like that. The reason why this question got so high is because it is a very valid question. As some other people pointed out, now it is impossible to even guess just how much better your shielding is now. So because this is such a sensitive topic that competitive players would really like to know the answer to, there had to be a writer who would become the sacrifice for the people. Because from the beginning we knew that no matter what the answer would be, it would not go down well. And so F for Riot frogs on. On paper, the answer is very simple. If there is one thing League has always had a problem with, it is a lot of text while you're playing the game. Be it item descriptions, keystone explanations, or even just the tooltips on your abilities. Sometimes those abilities have more text than the lore of the champion. And so, in an attempt to increase the clarity of what is happening in the game, Riot tried to simplify things, and as a result, some of these things were removed. Apparently there was a little bit of chaos as the item system got reworked again, but now they confirmed that they have a clear direction where they want to go, and so things should get better. Which of course, in the eyes of a common reader, it was translated as tough luck, we'll fix it later. So yes, it seems like Riot knows about it and things should get better. To quote him directly, they intend to add these stats back into the game. So we'll get there. Eventually. Another awesome question that came out was directed at the practice tool. Over the years, we've seen some improvements, but if people really want a theory craft, there is a lot of variables around the target dummies which you normally wouldn't see in the game. For example, you can't even give the dummy specific maximum health. Which means that if you are trying to compare DPS on specific items, whenever an item deals damage based on maximum health, that number is just gonna be massive. And so you can't even get realistic results. On top of this, there was a suggestion for setting specific armor and magic resistance, making the dummy skillable so you can trigger some of the effects on kill, also perhaps changing your runes in-game without exiting, but also there was a suggestion for setting stacks for stacking champion abilities. To which Riot Galaxy Smash gave us an answer. Apparently in 14.2 there will be some new buttons coming to Practice Tool. It wasn't confirmed what those would do, but it was confirmed it wouldn't be anything from what was mentioned here. As an added bonus, they kinda mentioned that developing new features for the Practice Tool is kinda a mess, which to be fair is definitely expected. But yes, the Practice Tool is getting more features. Another question that got answered was aimed at the cinematic. Here they asked how long did it take to put together the Still Here cinematic. That would be compared to the previous cinematics. Though funnily enough, no one brings up Brink of Infinity, because quite frankly, I don't even think that one exists. At first, Riot Race answered that it's all roughly the same. Ever since Awaken, they were all landing on a similar schedule. So when further pressed as to how long it took, we got the answer that the foundations of this cinematic were worked on back in February. Funnily enough, that's when the entire League community rebelled, and there was fire absolutely everywhere after Brink of Infinity came out. And what's interesting is that it wasn't until May that they started with the storyboarding. So the actual CGI production from that point on had to be pretty quick. With that said, the models and the settings were likely worked on before that point. After which we got a question many people will be interested in. Is there any chance of getting a permanent rotating game mode in League? This one is specifically talking about the fact that when we get a rotating game mode, you know, something like Earth or One for All or Arena, there is always at least 1 or 2 months of a gap before something else happens. And here, Riot Gamemodes confirmed that yes, we are getting more things this year. This was actually confirmed in the dev update, so we are getting stuff like Earth again. And while they can't promise we will get something every patch, they can promise there will be less downtime. Which could also be because now they have Arena as a game mode that keeps returning. Which is a topic that also got a question in just a moment. But yes, if you are a casual player who only likes fun game modes, there will be more things this year. Another really interesting question that arrived was aimed at announcer packs. That's right, in case you forgot, a few years back, during one of the dev videos, it was teased that announcer packs were being worked on. But as the years went by, nothing was ever mentioned. And so here, 100-piece nuggets actually gave us an answer. Apparently, announcer packs were worked on, however, it was quite difficult to pull it off correctly. And that's especially because you have to take into account localization. You have to make sure a voice pack sounds amazing in every language. Which shouldn't be too difficult to pull off if you are working with already existing champions, especially those who already got carried by pretty awesome voice actors. But I understand that this topic might get harder if you decide to make announcer packs for real people. I don't know, what if you make an LCS announcer pack? It sounds awesome until you realize that you need to translate everything and find people that sound similar for other languages. So yes, they confirmed that they are experimenting with this, but they have nothing to confirm yet. Honestly, I think voice packs should only be tied to their region. If there is an English voice, just keep it in English. Don't bother with translating it, but at the same time, give, for example, the French team the choice of making their own pack. I think that would solve a lot of these problems. After which we got another amazing question, which rings close to my heart. Have you guys considered doing a texture update to base skins to modernize them without having to do a full ASU? The reason why this one is funny to me is because Chibin likes to talk a lot about the fact that League's textures are such a low resolution. I could be lying here, but I don't think they are even 2K. Which means that yes, you can run this game on any potato, but at the same time... oh god. And yes, you may remember that Riot has actually done this in the past. And in those cases, it actually worked and those champions started looking better. So here, Lexical stepped forward and gave us a little bit more of an answer. While they have done VFX and splash arts and stuff like that in the past, when it comes to some of the base skins for the champions, things don't look so good. And I mean, you have polygons with such sharp edges that there is no way a texture can fix that. So long story short, Riot is trying, but sometimes there is nothing that can be done. Another question that was brought up on a similar topic is porting Wild Rift models into PC. And thank God they specifically asked about the models in-game, not the HD ones that just present the champions. Because you would be surprised just how different the HD model is from what you can see in the game. But yes, it is true that in some cases, the model we get in Wild Rift is better than what you can see in League PC. Even though on average, if you take the Wild Rift models and you scale them up to a PC screen, they are actually far lower quality. That's because on the screen of your tiny phone, you can't really notice anything. But yes, Lexical once again came out and gave us an answer. It seems like the League team is trying to figure this out. And in fact, they tried to make a workflow that would allow them to port those models over. But unfortunately, they haven't found the perfect solution yet. From the description we got, they got close, but things still weren't perfect. They still couldn't translate the models from one engine to another one-to-one. But besides that, they did also mention some bottlenecks from outside influences. At least outside of just porting the model over. And when asked about that, we learned that it could be down to just people management. Let's say you wanna port a champion over and you wanna neaten it up a little bit. Well, you would need a VFX artist. But what if all the VFX people are already working on another project? Apparently, when, for example, Arena was being worked on, all the VFX people were busy, and so that's why Arena didn't have a lot of those effects. And as Lexical mentioned here, you can't really just rip people from other teams. On top of this, they also have to pay attention to the quality bar, you know, making sure that the splash art actually fits League, not just Wild Rift. And overall, they still need to train people to do specific tasks, they need people to train those people to be trained, and all of a sudden we're back in 2020. In short, Riot is trying to find a way how to convert the Wild Rift models into League when it makes sense. Another question people might be interested in is related to Smurfs. Right now, Riot is not entirely against Smurfs, but anything can happen and maybe they can change their opinion. But in the current situation, heading into 2024, they feel confident with the systems they gave League to track down Smurfs and make sure they are where they are supposed to be. So the tracking of your real skin should be a lot faster. After that, placing you in your correct elo should be a lot faster too. And lastly, they are still closely monitoring how the entire ladder looks. So if things really start getting out of hand, they are ready to just pull the plug. So long story short, stuff is happening, we'll have to wait and see. Another question that was brought up was aimed at animated emotes. That's right, I actually forgot those were a thing in League of Legends. And apparently that's because the last animated emote we got came out 2 years ago. The answer we got here is that they really wanna bring them back too. But production-wise, it is far more difficult to make something animated compared to just a single image. So there is the chance we might get them. And that's all we know. After which we got a question from none other than Nicky Boy. And of course he had to ask about the League Partner Program. What's funny is that a few weeks ago Riot actually updated the League Partner Program website. And they mentioned that they will have more to say in early 2024. Which is funny because originally it said that we would get updates in 2021. That never happened. But yes, apparently Riot is doing something with the program. We don't know what, but they are improving it somehow. And so, Nicky Boy might get a redemption arc after all. And finally, we got to the question asking about Arena becoming a permanent game mode. Here I would like to highlight a part of the question which said, when TFT became permanent, it didn't seem that big of a hit. Am I the only one who remembers the queue time for TFT being so big it started destroying Riot's servers? I know the person mentioned that maybe from their perspective it didn't seem that big, but oh boy was it big! When TFT first launched, it destroyed everyone's expectations. And I do believe the play rate was far higher than Arena's. But regardless, this question did get an answer. The answer is very simple. It all boils down to a single aspect. Are they creating a sufficiently large enough core audience for this to be worth pushing into the permanent mode? In short, are they making sure enough people actually wanna play this permanently? Because if not, we got another Twisted Tree Line or Dominion on our hands. I do believe Riot is making the right steps with Arena so far. They are slowly crafting their ecosystem before they decide to just plug it in the middle of a forest. And as they mentioned here, things are looking good for Arena. And so they will continue improving it until it gets into a sustainable point. Then we got another serious question. Will there be League of Legends 2? Here Probama joked about the fact that looking at where League is now, we are kinda already playing like a fourth iteration of the game anyway. But funnily enough, he mentioned that if it ever makes sense to make a second game instead of updating the first one, Riot would do it. Which is kinda an obvious answer, but this one will turn into a meme one day. Especially since, yeah, 2025 is supposed to change League forever. And after this, we got a funny situation that happened with the questions. Of course, we got some people from the custom skins communities asking about how Vanguard is gonna destroy everything they have ever worked on. But for obvious reasons, none of these got any answers from Rioters. Because the moment Riot acknowledges the existence of custom skins, legally they would have to go after them and take them down. Otherwise, someone else could go into court and say, hey, I made this champion that looks like a League champion, but Riot didn't take down those, so why is our taken down? Yes, all of this actually boils down to legal issues. But it's funny to see that another member of the community, Blue Jay, who is also making custom skins, asked about this too. Apparently his comment got to like a second place on the entire AMA, but it didn't get any answers from Riot, for obvious reasons. And so he decided to post the comment again, thinking that maybe it was hidden or something, and well, that was a mistake. He can't be so clearly manipulating votes. That's right, this is worth punishment from the League of Legends subreddit. The highest possible punishment of a permanent ban. I'd like to say I'm surprised. I'm kinda not. Now yes, I'm being dramatic, it's not really a permanent ban, because after 7 days you just talk to the mods and they unban you. But it's still pretty funny that this actually happened. The sad thing is, no, custom skins didn't get any answers, so they are still probably very much screwed. And after this we got one more question, which I really want to highlight, because it's time to have copium again. See, another person also asked about Gamemodes, and they specifically brought up Doombots and stuff like that. And they asked, since some of those were the most fun they have ever had in League, would something like this return? To which Riot Cadmus once again gave us a very interesting answer. Just like before, they mentioned that 2024 will be big for Gamemodes. There should be a lot of returning stuff, but also some new things. There should be some returning things, including some updates, specifically mentioning something like Nexus Blitz. And to quote them, they said, in 2024 we are still going to bring new content. But we will also be looking at evaluating stuff that's been around for a while, like what we did with Nexus Blitz. Not making any promises here, but it's definitely one of the areas the team is most passionate about. See, if you look at things that were around for a while, similar to Nexus Blitz, there is only one kind of game mode that would fit that criteria. That's right! They might be talking about PvE. Because both Star Guardian and Odyssey have been lying around for a while. So what if they are actually working on PvE too? What if 2025 is gonna change League forever because we're gonna get something like a story mode? Look, I warned you that we are gonna be huffing copium. But yes, from the context here, it seems like we will be reuniting with some kind of an old friend. It could be PvE, it could be Doombots, which is technically also PvE. I mean, it would all kind of fit together, because Riot did recently improve their AI too. I mean, the AI of their enemies, not what it means today. So yes, this one is pretty cool to hear. And to top this video off, there is one more thing that we got from outside this AMA. There was a separate interview with Riot Forge where it was mentioned that Riot Forge would not be making multiplayer games. Everything that comes out of it should be single player only. And the reason is very simple. Multiplayer games require servers, dedication, and maintenance. All of which Riot is already doing with League of Legends, Valorant, TFT, Wild Rift, and Legends of Runeterra. They don't need more living services. So Riot Forge is purely focused on single-player games, which you buy and you're done. And that totally makes sense. And that is pretty much all the most interesting answers we got here. It may not seem like much, but if you really dig into what was said here, we got some interesting things. Potential announcer packs may happen at some point. We may see a day where the Wild Rift models get ported into League. Arena will continue to get more updates. Items will get more description again. And most importantly, PvE is potentially back on the table. I swear I'm not gonna overhype that one.